You look bulletproof in navy blue jeans and leather.
Welcome to You're Still Doing That, the podcast that talks with folks about their childhood passions that they still do today. Our guest today is Lee County High School theater legend, the man that plays in 1,000 shows. He's been on TV, he's cozy with celebrities, and was a better donkey in Shrek than Eddie Murphy. He's got millions of streams on Spotify, and he was really nice to my kids. Welcome to the podcast, all-around good guy and songwriter, Britton Buchanan.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'll take it all. I'll take it all.
When I come back to this place and I feel that breeze upon my face, I do remember.
All right, so Britton, what was your earliest memory of starting music? It's one of the first things you remember.
Guitar Hero 3 was a
Nice.
big... I did that first before I ever tried to actually play the guitar, and I was just so poorly coordinated, and so we tried, t-ball and golf. I don't know why golf, but we tried
Right.
golf.
Well, that's what you do here in the South, right?
Yeah.
Everybody tries golf once or
Exactly.
twice.
And upward basketball, and I just was, barely hanging on.
Yeah.
I got past the ball once in upward basketball, and it looked like, I tried to catch it as if it were a baseball. I just, the pass was way over my head, and instead of running to meet up with the pass, it kind of just kept sailing, and I kept walking backwards and backwards, and
Right.
my arms reached
And catch
up.
the fly ball.
And so it was kind of a last-ditch effort to he likes playing this video game. Maybe he'll like to try it for real.
Yeah.
And so that's how it happened, as Guitar Hero, and then I started taking lessons from Kurt Armstead at Buchanan's, and
Buchanan's has sure turned out a lot of musicians over the years.
sure has. And, God bless him, because so many people that play the circuit now, and there is a Sanford circuit. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There's a circuit here in town. All grew up kind of just hanging around
Buchanan's, yep. Yeah, we were a rock band family at my house. We did a lot of that.
We did. We kind of graduated into that once we
Yeah.
found that there was a microphone and drums.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife liked to do drums on a rock band. We had that in the house. And guitar. Yeah, we did all that too. Yeah, those were, that probably launched a few people's careers. Guitar Hero,
I'd assume
rock
so.
band, or at least their interest in it.
Yeah.
So, did you ever pick up any instruments when you were little other than guitar?
I kind of graduated into playing the piano, through after, but it was well after, I started taking lessons when I was 8 at guitar. To be fair, I did take piano lessons when I was 4 or 5,
Right.
as everybody does.
Yeah.
And I hated it and didn't stick with it, as everybody does. And so, April Ward, I'm sorry if you ever hear this, because I don't really count it because I didn't, it didn't register with me as a musical experience. But
Yeah, I was the same way. Yeah, I took lessons forever, and I hated it, and I wanted out. And my parents made me stay
Yeah,
till I graduated high school. And now, as a music teacher, I'm like, why didn't I try harder?
yeah. I lasted for a year, and then I still can't read music, and that was the whole point. I mean, I was learning how to read music. I was probably 4 or 5, learning how to read music. Then I took lessons from David Allman in town.
Oh, yeah?
When I was I had kind of taught myself how to play the piano, but then I was like, I want to learn how to read music. That lasted for 6 months, and I was like, I don't really care to learn how to read music. So I still can't read music, but yeah, the guitar and piano, I kind of picked that up when I was about 12 years old, but guitar started when I was 8.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Curtis being your first guitar teacher. Who were some of your other teachers coming through?
Kurt, and I mean, I took lessons from Kurt for 10 years.
Yeah.
I even kind of through the voice, I think that's probably right about when I stopped. Was I was still taking weekly lessons up in while I was on the TV show.
Right.
When I wasn't in LA filming, when I was in town, I was still taking weekly lessons because there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
You can always get better, and just I teach a couple of kids, and just having somebody to talk to for the
Right.
first 10 minutes of the lesson is always, a great help just in your
Well,
weekly.
he sounds like he was a good teacher, and
He was
and
great.
really good guitar player too. If he's still with you to this day, because you're not shabby yourself.
Well, I try.
Yeah.
He taught me pretty much everything that I know. And now he's working out in the big leagues with Laney Wilson and touring the country and everything.
Well,
So,
there you go.
yeah. He's
Yeah,
lucky. He was luckier than me.
Well, it sounds like you were good to find him, because it's one thing to play guitar, but then to be able to get up on stage and sing in front of people and not be worried or insecure about what you got to do.
Now
Yeah.
that's not
That's a whole nother
not being
talent.
insecure might be a stretch, but you find a way to make it work.
Right.
I kind of like the guitar's kind of like it became like a safety blanket because I'm a pretty deeply like insecure person at heart. I have a friend in LA. I lived there for a while, and it feels like home. And I have friends that became family, and so my friend Kelly, his name's Kelly Kidd, also a great artist. You should check him out. He can be in a room of 10 people that we all know, and just sing and look at them in the eyes and perform. I can't make myself, even with my wife, I can't look her in the eyes and sing at the same time. But the guitar definitely brings out, it's like a safety blanket.
Well, the greatest musicians always have those insecurities. So you're right there with good people.
Yeah.
They always talk
I'm in
about
good company.
Always the greatest ones always talk about the biggest hurdle is getting over their personal fears and insecurities, but to deliver what everyone else is ready. Yeah, you're in good company with that. So do you remember what was your very first show that you did? First time you were on stage with your guitar?
Well, I did, theater, like you mentioned, with, Temple and those summer conservatories. But the first time I played guitar and sang in front of people was with the Temple teens at, I think it was at Tramway. Patrick Holt, who still works at the Temple, his mom, I think she was a teacher.
She was an art teacher at Tramway. Yeah, she was.
So we did my first show with them, which is where I played guitar for the first time. And I didn't play guitar and sing at the same time that show, but played guitar for somebody else and then sang my own song that wasn't in a musical. It was at Tramway, probably 2011 or 12 or something. With the Temple Teens, Tom Dalton was running Temple Teens, who was just like the best mentor that I have, ever could have dreamed of.
That's another organization, Temple Teens. They
crank them out.
They crank out a lot of they're really great about taking kids and then elevating their abilities by the time.
Well, you read about things like, Second City, like improv and all that kind of stuff, and the Groundlings, these groups out of LA and Chicago and everything that I've just cranked out. Just like Second City is like Steve Carell, Stephen Colbert, all those guys. The Groundlings,
anybody's come out of there,
yeah. And you wonder if Sanford was in
or will be,
if you have the same resources as a place like New York, Chicago, or LA, there's no doubt in my mind that they would be cranking out people. That there would be that same kind of legacy of.
There will be.
Well, I think there will be.
Yeah.
If I embarrassingly, but very appreciatively, got a proclamation from the mayor at this show in Depot Park for my contribution, whatever you want to call it. And the only thing that I could think of to say afterwards was, don't sleep on the scene, here, because the musicians, the actors, even Spring Lane Cinemas cranking out their own
films. Yeah. Jared over there is doing a great job.
And to have that is crazy. It's amazing that you have filmmakers, artists, actors. You've got incredible journalism. I mean, Billy and Gordon from The Rant, obviously.
The Rant. We love while you're reading The Rant.
Yeah, and the fact that this is some creative hotbed. I mean, people like you and me, we know it. But generally, for the longest time, I guess it's still this way. I mean, I view it from a different point, not in an egotistical way, but like I have a different seat now after the TV show than I used to, and so I can kind of be a little bit biased because the support has been just very overwhelming. But I remember playing back when Smoking Barrel was the red sofa, and we had 6 people in there, and it's like the fact that there's like. We have this scene of all these talented people, and that people will still think, oh, there's nothing to do in Sanford. And then you go to these shows and there's 10 people in the audience. It's like people don't understand how special, this is to have.
Right. And then even like we got Depot Park now that hosts shows, and there's a crowd of people that show up. There's a lot of people that show up for those outside venues.
When I was in Brick City South, which was my band when I was 14, we at the time had the largest crowd at one of those Thursday nights. Yeah. And it was like 400 people. Yeah. And now I know Tuesday's Gone is a national act, but it's the Leonard Skinner tribute band. They had 2,200 people out there. It was the official count for Tuesday's Gone. And it's longer than that now. Wow. It's almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago. I'm not 18 anymore. Maggie reminds me of that all the time. 10 years ago, the most we had was 400 people. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, it's definitely growing. And you're right about a little hotbed. We've got all kinds of things to do in here in Sanford.
Oh, yeah.
Lots and lots of stuff. Now, when you were younger in high school and stuff, you played shows everywhere. It seemed like anytime there was an event somewhere, and with Britton Buchanan performing. Yeah. How did you find all those gigs to do? What was your drive to do all that public performance?
Well, I used to play, like I said, the Red Sofa when it was Red Sofa, Smoking Barrel, Karma, which is now no longer there. God rest its soul, because that was one of those situations. Karma was one of those situations to where what was happening there was beautiful. Yeah, and 10 people would show up, and she would lose money paying the band $150.
Right,
which
they
is not
would
a lot
order
of money.
$150 in coffee.
Yeah, no, and maybe a calculated error to have a show at 8:00 at night and be selling coffee, for people. But still, just people they could have easily paid for the evening. And after, a year or two of doing it, it just wasn't feasible, financially to do anymore. But which is a shame, because again, great music was being made in that place. Yeah. And so I was doing those kind of things. And then part of it too is just my passion for political activism. And so I played a lot of, events for different campaigns and different causes and all that kind of stuff. So that was, the motivators was just, we had really good venues. Now we're kind of limited to Depot Park and Smoking Barrel, and obviously the Temple Theater. But a lot of smaller venues for good acoustic music, and during the time when I was in high school, and even coming up, but especially when I was in high school, it was probably the most important and charged political atmosphere. So there was a lot of opportunities there as well.
Yeah, that time period, there sure was coming up there. You can bet on that. So you did theater at Lee County High School. What made you want to get, I guess, through Temple Teens?
Yeah, well, so in the interest of full disclosure, I would never took a drama class. Sorry, Coley. But I did do two shows there. I did Grease and Shrek, like you said, and it was very evident very quickly as to why I had stopped doing it at Temple Theater, because by the time I started, I was like, my interests are in a whole other,
right,
in a whole other place.
So no more musical theater for Britton Buchanan.
No, not. Miracles happen every day,
right?
But I don't think that that's in the cards. Mad respect to it though, and the people that are committed to it. I just when you start making a living playing 3.5 minute songs with your guitar, it starts the commitment to inhabiting another character for 2 hours becomes incredibly
Right. And well,
grueling.
not just 2 hours, but like 3 months of rehearsals?
3 months of rehearsal. Yeah, I mean, I did Christmas Carol a lot, and now, God bless Peggy Tapcorn. I love her so much. At the time, they had just started doing it, and you had to have this whole cast of kids, and so we would do 3 weeks of rehearsals, and sometimes like 12-hour rehearsals, and then 3 weeks of shows. And I think they figured out now that like maybe the school system has cracked down on it, because now they have alternating casts of kids.
I was going to say they don't do that anymore.
They don't do it anymore, but we were doing Thursday,
I always
Friday,
wondered
Saturday,
how they
and
did
Sunday.
that, because they were doing like the kids. I was thinking, is that even legal? Because that's like an adult thing, man. That's long hours for a young kid.
Student matinees on Fridays. Sometimes we would have matinees on Thursdays as well, 2:00 matinees. So we would be getting out of school at noon on Thursdays, and then not really going in on Fridays, because you had a 9 a.m. student matinee and a 7 o'clock performance that night. So the last thing you wanted to do was go to school. Sometimes we did, but like. And it was only 3 Fridays, but then when you get into like half a day on Thursday, half a day on Friday, those kind of absences, I guess, add up. I was also in private school at that point, so that I probably could have bent the rules. And, by the time I got out of private school, which was the best thing that ever happened to me, I wasn't doing, the shows anymore. So, yeah, I did musical theater for a little bit. Taught me a lot about how to sing a song.
Right. Projection and all that.
Yeah, and how to be a character, how to sing a song from a character's point of view. But I don't think it's in the cards anymore.
Yeah, well, you never know. A career is long and a life is long.
Yeah, never say never.
Hopefully all those are very long, so you never know. The right thing might come around.
Yeah.
Somebody say, hey, Britton, I got a show about a guy that comes through in a small town and sings his own stuff, and we need somebody with that kind of experience.
Yeah. The only thing I'd ever want to do, I think, that if somebody said, would you want to do it, is if it was like a golden, like, you don't have to audition, that makes me, that's just laziness. It's not entitlement. You don't have to audition, but we want you to play Mark in Rent. Then I would be like, okay, I'll do it. I'll just stand there with a camera and sing some songs. And
we love Rent. That was one of my wife's favorite. And so she's, we must have seen about 8 times, maybe a dozen times. We've seen it a lot.
I love that show. Again, that goes back to my activist side. Like it's an important piece of history, that show.
Yeah, we love Rent over here. So I came to know you. Well, I feel like, through social media, it's like you think it's like, oh, yeah, I know so-and-so, but you've never really met in like real life. But you feel like you know somebody. You see their stuff. So our paths have crossed. We've been in the same bubble for a lot of different times. And but I don't know if we've like really ever chatted or met. So I'm going to extend my hand and say, "Hey, Brett."
It is nice to meet. Nice to officially just sit down and talk.
Yeah, we've been in the same like bubble of people for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I first really came to know you when you were at Lee County High School, and my kids were doing a play with Mr. Coley. Schoolhouse Rock. Yeah, that's the show. And so they were in that. As Mr. Coley does a great job of bringing elementary kids into the high school productions. Yeah. And a great way of self-sustaining that program. So my 3 kids were in there, and you were a co-director on that one.
Yeah, this was a Best Christmas Pageant Ever was the one I was co-director.
Okay, so maybe that was it. You were working with them. And my kids did several plays over there. And you were like a co-director, they called you. And
this was during The Voice, too. This was
So we were there, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, Britton's going to be gone for a little while. He's going to a music camp. Yeah. And so I'm sitting there, and, I'm an educator in Lee County schools, and I'm thinking, how can a kid just go? They said he's going to be gone for a month or 2, and then just come back. I was like, what? I was like, in a music camp, and I was like, can they do that? I guess so. But we were all like, well, it's Britton. He does a lot of shows and he sings. But so everybody just kind of rolled with it, right? Sounded very doable. And then you came back and from music camp and continued on. And then it was a Christmas show. Well, then we found out that you weren't at music camp.
No, it was a very elaborate music
Well, it was a
camp,
very
yeah.
elaborate music camp, but it was a music camp. We had found out that you had gotten on The Voice, auditioned, and so we were like, oh my God, he made it through on The Voice. And I can tell you, you did a show, Alexa Hughes show choir over there did like a Christmas performance, and then there were several students that did their own solo piece, and you did a piece on there. I don't even remember what it was, but you were performing, and it was next level stuff because we were sitting right there on the front row, and I think my kids performed with whatever was going. Must have been the best Christmas pageant ever. Yeah. And then afterwards, there were student performances. And so you did a tune and you came out, and I was like, the people in Lee County Auditorium here, they have no idea what they're listening to right now. I was like, this is not Britton Buchanan.
I probably had no idea what I was
like,
either.
This sounds, I was like, everything about this is high quality, next level. I was like, this is on a whole nother level. I was like, I could tell from you coming back from The Voice and then having been in that area with those producers and that level of talent. And then you performed whatever tune you did. It was incredible.
Oh, thank you.
I just remember thinking, oh man, this is stellar. I was like, I don't think anybody knows what they're really listening to. This is not
thank you, man.
Britton from old days. This is a new kind of Britton right now that we're hearing. And so I was blown away at the growth that came from you. It was really, really good. well,
you never underestimate, and again, this is why being a part of the scene, it was kind of, I moved back here from LA to, get engaged and get married because Maggie was still in school at the time. And I didn't want to seem like I could just, it didn't feel right to me to just move back and then act like I'm just a part of this scene. Do you know what I mean? Because I didn't want to, there are people that put work in all the time that I didn't want to take lightly. But that's the same thing with the Voice and going and living in a hotel and being sequestered with all these just incredibly talented people is the same thing about being plugged into the scene here. It's like, never underestimate being around people who are great at what you do. Yeah. Because it elevates you.
Yes, it does.
In an incredible amount. And they don't have to be pop artist or folk artist or country artist or whatever. Just to be around somebody who is great at what you do will make you better just by absorbing what they do. Yeah,
the story, the line goes, always surround yourself with good people. Mm-hmm. And that goes around with whatever you do. And you're exactly right. If you're around great people, then you're going to elevate yourself too.
Right. Yeah. The goal is to be around people that are better than you. Yeah. Because, if they're as good as you are, then you'll kind of just, all of you will just kind of sit there, and you'll stay. But especially as a musician, there's competitiveness in musicians is incredibly I would be lying if I said whenever I'm booked to open for somebody that I don't go into it thinking, by the time I get off the stage, I want them to wish that they went before me. You know what I mean? That is a thing as a performer that you have to just go crush it and show that you don't want people to feel like they can follow you,
right.
And so you want people that are that good, that are better than you, because then that pushes you. If you feel like, oh, there's no way to follow that, then you're going to go out and give the best performance of your life.
Right. You're going to have to crank it up.
Yeah. And that's how it is with songwriting. That was the greatest thing about The Voice, was making friends. And you get close enough that you're like, well, listen to this that I wrote, or listen to this that I wrote, or I worked on this last night. And to just sit in one of those rooms in the hotel that we were sequestered at, and those ballrooms or conference rooms or whatever that they had rented out for us, and we could go really anytime during the day, and you would just, sign up for a 30-minute slot, say, do you guys want to come? We'll play some songs, and just listening to this. You would never find these people if not for the show. A lady named Maud Latour was on The Voice with me, and she had great original music. And I mean, it's so good that like I learned it and covered it in front of her without her. Like, I didn't want to tell her that I was learning her song. I was like, I love this song so much. She didn't even make it on the show. She auditioned. No one turned around. And, they were actually incredibly like, very not delicate with their criticisms.
Oh yeah.
Right now, she has more followers than anybody that I was on the show with.
Wow.
And she just played Lollapalooza. She's on a sold-out countrywide tour.
There you go.
Playing, 700, like places like Cat's Cradle. She's like selling them out, headlining, and like she didn't even make it. And like those are the people that we were around.
Yes.
On a daily basis, listening to what they had to write and what they had to say and how they had to say it, and that was the best part of that entire experience was just hearing music.
Being around all that talent and just being able to soak it in.
Yeah.
Right, for that long period of time that you had. Yeah, you can't help but get better and listen to tips and tricks and people. And they're like, oh, why don't you do something this way? And all these little Mozarts all in a room, right? Because that's what he was known for, like making people listen to people's music and say, oh, you could do it this way.
Yeah. No.
And make it better. Yeah, room full of Mozarts there.
It's great. There's that Tom Petty story about I Won't Back Down, where he's writing, I Won't Back Down. And the original line was, the chorus, hey, baby, we're living on the edge of the world. And he played it for George Harrison, and he was like, I don't think that's the line. I think maybe you should say, there ain't no easy way out. And Tom was like, maybe I should.
And that's what it's in there, yeah.
And that's what's in there. Yep. And it just came from a little nudge. And, hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. That's a way better line than...
Give me my writing credit, George Harrison says.
10%. I want it.
All right, so a few questions about The Voice. I'm sure you've been asked a billion questions about The Voice.
I don't get tired of talking about it.
But from my standpoint, as being a little bit of music and running different kind of music groups, I was watching you on there thinking all kinds of backstage questions I had about what leads up to what we see on the TV. And so if you're not allowed to mention anything, you can just say, no comment or whatever.
Yeah. We're under a $5 million NDA.
Right. That's right.
And I'm going to talk like I have $5,001,001.
That's right. So
I won't be broke.
That's awesome. So what was, so when you first went on there, during your blind audition, so I should have watched that episode back again. I was trying to remember. But Adam, I think, wanted you, but Blake
he had blocked
you, and then you went Team Alicia. Now, how did that feel about standing there after you perform, and then the judges have all their little drama?
So I was just talking about this like about a month ago, and I finally realized how, because everyone says, who's nice? Like Blake Shelton, he must be a nice guy. Yeah. Blake Shelton is a nice person. But everybody, all the other three coaches, Adam and Kelly and Alicia, were very involved with everybody. Yeah. And Blake was always very like, I talked to him twice, in the 6 months that I was on the show at post blind audition. And I talked to everybody else a ton.
Yeah.
And so I think I just realized a month ago how, disrespectful it might have been for him to have blocked, Adam, and then to have gone, because you only get one.
Yeah.
To have gone with another coach. And so I don't think I fully realized that, like,
so maybe
when someone says that they want you so bad that they use their one and only block, that you might should go with the person.
That person.
And I didn't. But that was a surreal moment. So I was there for
that
a
must be
month.
fun. Now,
you know.
the girl that won your episode, Bryn,
Yeah,
who was her coach?
Kelly Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson.
But for that blind,
wonk,
I was
wonk, Blake.
yeah, I was there for a month, up until that point, September through October of 2017. And so you're just rehearsing and shooting B-roll. It's pretty insane that we were there for a month.
So you were a month just for that tryout.
Yeah, so by the time that I came back to co-direct that show, that's all that we had done was the blind audition. And you do like interviews and B-roll, but it was really a very like lazy time comparatively to when you go back.
What do you do for a month for that? The 10 minutes you were on TV.
Yeah.
What do you do for a whole month? For 10 minutes?
That's when I really got to listen to other people's music. But
were you there with all the other contestants?
Yeah, there was like 94 of us or something.
Oh my God.
And with 48 slots. And so you were kind of like, if I make it, and that was a big if. I didn't think I was going to, but if I make it, half of these people aren't going to be back when we come back. And so, we filmed again January, February for that month for the battles and the knockouts. So that was definitely a busier time than just
right. It's a lot of
just
rehearsals during that time.
Yeah, but so my behind the scenes little story there was I was incredibly nervous, which was the only time that whole time that I ended up getting nervous. But I was nervous because I was the first person showed on TV, as if I was the first person to audition. I was the fourth.
Right, they don't do anything in the timeline.
I was the fourth on the first day, and the three people in front of me made it. And I thought, there's no way they're going for a fourth in a row, because there's only 48 slots, Yeah. And it's 5 days, assuming they didn't make it through everybody until there were people that were there for that month that never got to audition because the teams filled up.
Oh my God! So they didn't even get to hear people.
Yeah. Like a whole probably 20 to 30 people that they didn't.
Oh my God! There's people that come and then they don't even get to play.
Stay for a month, yeah. And now I'm 90% sure that if you don't get to be heard, that like the next go round.
Oh, they pull you in the next round.
But so I get up there and I'm like, there's no way I'm making it again, because there's 48 slots, 94 people or so.
They've already taken three.
They've already taken three, and that was Bryn and a friend of mine named Jemai and this guy named Brett who did a ukulele cover of "She's a Bad Mama Jamma."
Oh my God, ukulele! That's a great instrument for that.
It was, and I went and sang Trouble, and the track kicks up and everything, and then I went to sing that first line, and they tell you if you mess this song up, you're not gonna get a redo. Right. Like you just have to keep going. And my microphone wasn't on. They hadn't cut my microphone on, or the microphone had died or something.
Yeah.
And so I just kept singing, and here I am, thinking, well, this is it. They told me I didn't get a redo. So we got into the chorus, still couldn't hear anything. I was still just going and singing, and they were like, "Okay." They stopped the song, and they were like, "We're so sorry. We're going to give you an opportunity to go again.
Right.
We're going to switch out microphones." And so by the time I sang the first line, the crowd went crazy. I think solely because they felt bad for me.
They felt they're cheering you on.
But I have a very dry sense of humor, and I was so nervous, and that put me at ease in a heartbeat. I thought it was so funny. They were so worried. They were like,
"You're probably like, I'm toast now because of this." So
yeah, they
got
said,
to lose?
"Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was laughing. I think they thought that I would be upset. I was hysterically laughing. I thought it was so funny because I have luck like that, and so that would happen, to me. And I was immediately just at ease for the rest of the audition.
Yeah.
And so that's my little behind the scenes tidbit that no one saw on TV was.
That was your second try.
That was my second go at things. Yeah.
So they got to hear you twice. I don't know how well the judges could hear you.
I don't think they heard me the first time. Yeah,
I don't know how far your voice travels.
They heard the track though. That's for sure. That's all I could hear too.
So when you were there for rehearsals, who is rehearsing with you? Is your mentor like there and
Yeah.
working with you, or is it like a team of producers?
Well, you have obviously the band, but like for the blinds, it was just like the band, and then there were producers in the room, but they didn't really
Do anything.
Do anything. For the rest of the show, you have one rehearsal with your coach, and then another rehearsal without the day after. And so I basically describe it to people like this. Monday was like rehearsals all day and then the live show at night.
Yeah.
Tuesday, you rehearsed for the results, and then you had the live show at night. You found out if you got through your song on Tuesday night. So Wednesday was your on-camera rehearsal and like wardrobe and stuff. And Thursday was your off-camera rehearsal, maybe some B-roll and all that stuff. Friday, again, was probably wardrobe and B-roll. And then we recorded our song for iTunes. I don't think they do that anymore, or at least if they do, they don't do it as for as early as they do, because we were the last season where you recorded your blind audition song. We recorded that when we got back in January, but you recorded that, and I think that maybe they just do live songs now, which that's thanks to streaming, because you used to votes would be on how you purchased the song or how many streams your song got, and now I think that no one buys music anymore.
No,
so they wait till the live rounds. That's if they still record. But we would record on Friday. I was still in school, so I usually got Saturday off until it got to the last 2 weeks, and then everything was just so crazy that I had to do Saturday. Sunday was like a dress rehearsal with cameras and everything, and then Monday you were live again. And so there's a rehearsal. Your first rehearsal is on camera with your coach, and then you have a rehearsal the next day without them, and then that's Wednesday and Thursday, and then by Friday the band's already recorded the track and you're singing it for iTunes. So you better have it figured out exactly how you want to do it, because you're gonna cut it on Friday,
right?
And so, you rehearse with your mentor, but that's maybe like a half hour, it's not that long. You run it like 2 or 3 times, and they give you run it once, they give you suggestions. You run it again. If they need to do it again, they'll do it one more time,
Right.
It's very short.
So most of that rehearsal is on your own.
Yeah.
So how does the band, the backing band, how do they get that music together? Is that how much input do you have in
That's
that?
a great question. See, the only thing really arrangement-wise that I had a very big input on was when I did What's Love Got to Do with It, because we had rehearsed that as an option for a prior round, I believe, and it didn't. They went, I think maybe it was for my playoff round. And so they ended up doing, I think we had it narrowed down to What's Love Got to Do with It and Some Kind of Wonderful. And Alicia ended up going with Some Kind of Wonderful. So by the time we got to What's Love Got to Do with It, I just was like, I have this idea, Yeah. And I had a really big hand in the arrangement of all that kind of stuff. But other than that, we really stuck with the recordings. They cut anything down to 3.5 minutes is your max. And so they make the cuts, but arrangement wise, we stuck with the recordings. Except What's Love Got to Do with It was very different.
Right. You just had a good idea for that.
Yeah, it was just moody.
They rolled with it.
Yeah, that was cool too, because during the rehearsal for that, we didn't rehearse with the band for our on-camera rehearsal. We rehearsed they were doing this week where they took people out of their normal situations, and I think Adam took his team to a recording studio. Blake took his team to a bar, and they rehearsed with the acoustic. But we rehearsed, still on the Universal lot, but they had this piano in this room, and we would pick the songs, and the band made the sheet music for the coaches. And so Alicia, played piano, and I played guitar, and we rehearsed it on camera as just me and Alicia playing together. And that was cool, is when you're like, oh my gosh, me and Alicia Keys are
jamming,
just playing music, just the two of us right now. And so that's the only arrangement I really had an input on.
Yeah, so I bet the band, I bet those folks are super like elite. They can just like roll at the drop of a hat on stuff.
And the nicest dudes. Alicia paid for me to cut a whole album right after the show. it never came out. It's a rock album, but like when we were talking to managers, we chose to go in a different direction, which was more like, how do we make it this accessible to a mainstream audience? And so I started working with like pop producers and all that kind of stuff. But she paid the band, and we cut a whole record in 2 days in July of. We cut the tracks in 2 days in July of 2018, right after the show. Yeah. And some of the band had done like EPs and everything before, but that's the only time they had ever, up until that point, at least I can't speak for now, that's the only time they had ever played as the band on somebody's full-length record. And so I have a whole record with them of my songs that I wrote, by myself when I was 16 and 17 years old, and we cut a whole album together in a studio called, oh gosh, man, I forget the name of it now, but it was Paul Allen, when Paul Allen was still alive, co-founder of Microsoft, his house. And he had this studio, and he kept asking Alicia's engineer, Ann, come cut something at the studio. And they were like, free of charge, just come cut something at the studio. We want you to hear how it sounds. And so mine was like the test record to see if they were going to work there. And then like 3 months later, he died, Yeah. But he had this massive guitar collection. And I had my guitars there, but I didn't even play any of mine because he had like Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers had a signature guitar, and Mike had personally given one of them to Paul Allen. And so I played that on the whole record. And the acoustic was a Robbie Robertson from the band, a signature Robbie Robertson guitar that Robbie had given to Paul Allen and signed and everything. Wow. And so those were the guitars I played on the record. And it never came out. Alicia sang backup on one of the songs.
Oh, my God.
And I just have it sitting in my emails. I don't even have it downloaded. It's just sitting in my Gmail account.
Jeez. So why is that not out for people to hear?
So it's a very unfortunate trait that I have. It's not that I don't handle criticism well. It's just that when I know somebody is right, that's kind of it for me. And so, like, Maggie will say, like, oh, like, we could be going to a movie or something. She'd be like, oh, I hate that I didn't get all my work done before we go. And I would be like, we don't have to go. I'll just cancel. I'll just refund the tickets. It's fine. We don't have to go. Like, that's how I am. And so we were talking. I was on a trial period with a manager, and I played, to introduce myself to him, I played acoustic versions of a couple of those songs. Yeah. And then we played the produced versions, and he was like, I just don't get the same feeling from the produced versions that I do of you like sitting across from me with just you and your guitar playing these songs. And that was it for me. And I was like, how do we do it?
You need some more opinions, sir.
I do.
You need some more opinions.
Alicia at some point was like, yeah, I just wanted you to be able to like get these songs out of your system and like start fresh. Like, because when you have a backlog, you just need to get them down. And yeah. And so, and then I started working with other writers and I had never co-written up until that point. Everything that we cut was stuff I had written in my bedroom by myself. And, I'm kind of happy that it didn't come out. My voice has matured a lot. Not even in it. It's changed. Like tonally, I'm a more healthy singer than I was.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. All that experience you've had.
Yeah. And so I think I sound better now. There are things that I would do different, and there are some songs that I listen to where I'm like, oh,
why did I make that choice?
Yeah. Why you can tell I was 17.
Yeah. Well, 18. I mean, it worked at that point. That's for sure.
It did.
Yeah. You need more ears on those songs. Now, can you take that music and like do your own version of it if you want to do? Are you allowed to redo them and put them out if you want?
Yeah, I own all of them. I probably could put that out if I wanted to. Right. I would just have to make a call to Alicia and just be like, "Is this fine?" But I mean,
it's a nice person to have on speed dial.
It is. It is. It's so funny. This is not a brag. It's so awkward, but I have her by accident, and I don't know how, as the only person in my favorites. And I don't know how to get it off because I'm not technologically advanced. And in my car, it pops up when I go to click on my phone. And
it's the first thing.
It's the first thing. And I try to when I go to hit recent or whatever to call somebody back, I'm so scared that I'm going to
accidentally
butt dial Alicia Keys. and I don't do that. We don't have a Well, we have a really good relationship and we're close, but we don't have like a just wanted to catch up.
Checking in.
You know, like
Right.
I try not to. My dad, God bless my dad, but my dad is like, you need to talk to people more, and I'm like, yeah, but with people like that, like you don't want to just waste their time by just like, how are you? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I try not to call if I have a reason. So I should probably figure out how to take her off of my. I don't even know how I favorited her. That's the thing. Is not that she's not one of my favorites, because she is. But I need to figure out how to rectify that situation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely have someone listen to those tunes, because I don't have any experience, but I would think when if somebody puts out like a song, like if Felicia puts out a song, probably had lots of people listen to this thing before it eventually gets out.
Yeah.
Probably lots of years on something.
Yeah. They groove. Some of them really groove.
Yeah.
And some of them are not so great, but it's about half and half. One of them, Juliet's Lullaby, is a song that I ended up recutting and put out.
Yeah, well, I was going to bring that up a little later down my list here.
Yeah.
Because I was jamming all your stuff this morning, so it'd be fresh in my head.
Yeah, that was a song we recut, so sounds very different.
From the original.
And I think in a good way it worked.
All right, so you came runner-up in The Voice, which I think probably is some pros and cons.
Yeah.
To both, you can come in second or coming in first. Because when you come in first, you got all kinds of contractual things that now you're set in stone that you got to do. And when you're second, you probably have tons of freedom.
You do
to kind of do what you want. So, what was your music life like after finishing that and then kind of being open?
It was. One that's a great blessing, because I've gotten to do what I've wanted to do, the entire time. If I was signed to a record label, we were talking about before we started, I had a podcast interviewing 80s horror icons or whatever you call it. I probably couldn't have just done that,
Yeah, right.
Like you have like managers and stuff. Now they can, if you make it to a certain point, they have 90 days to exercise whatever right they want to exercise on you. And so I was the only person that wrote their song for the last round when I wrote the song Where You Come From, which is based on this Flannery O'Connor book called Wise Blood. And Universal Publishing, I don't know if the conversation stopped there, or if it was the entertainment lawyer that was working on behalf of us for The Voice just stopped communicating. But there was a very solid chance that I was getting signed to Universal Publishing Group as a writer, because they declined every option. They have 90 days. So
right.
They have, management, record deal, writing, your life rights. Not even joking, your life rights, your story rights, and all that stuff. And they almost signed me to a publishing deal. And again, I don't know if it fell apart because Universal just was like, never mind, or if the entertainment lawyer, when I followed up, he called me, said they were interested. I called him again and never heard back from him. So I don't know what happened there, but I came close to being, signed to it as a writer to Universal Publishing Group, which would have been, pretty, very sacrificial.
Yes.
Royalty split.
Yeah.
Not where you would want it to be as a songwriter.
Right. You'd write a song and then somebody else would probably perform it.
Yeah. You'd
right. If they pick it up.
Yeah, they would perform it, and then you're only getting, I can't remember the exact split, but,
it's not a lot.
It's not. There's a sizable chunk of the already small, income off of songwriters as streaming that's going to get taken out, because, they're your publisher. So they get however many percent, I can't remember the specifics. And so, I don't want to speculate. Elvis's, deal with his manager was 50-50, and that was unprecedented. And so it wasn't that bad, but it was definitely, more than you would want your cut to be. So I kind of dodged a bullet, even though I do, my interests have gone in different areas, and sometimes I feel like I would just like to be a songwriter that writes songs for other people and just,
Yeah.
have
Well,
a life
there's a
doing
slew
that.
of people that have real long careers.
Yeah, Taylor
Right.
Phillips from Sanford, who literally you can see the top of his house from back
Oh, is
here.
that it?
Is he works just as a songwriter, and
Yeah.
like you kind of get that, and Taylor's very successful, and so like you live a good life without having to be
Without having to
hounded and all
yeah.
that kind of stuff. And so
Yeah, I can see where that would probably be where I would want to do too. You don't have to be the face of something.
exactly, but you still are a part of it,
Right.
And that's kind of stuff I've been thinking about. But yeah, that wouldn't have been so bad to be a Universal Publishing writer, but contractually I was free from everything because I think the only person that they picked up was Bryn, and they're obligated to pick her up because
She won. Yeah.
But from what I heard, I think they used to exercise a lot of their rights when the show was still, when it was getting off the ground and really popular, and the longer it's went on, it's no secret that like The Voice doesn't crank out superstars,
Right.
like American Idol did for like 3 seasons, and it doesn't do that anymore either. And so,
Yeah.
I think they realized they were probably losing money by signing all
In
of
the
these
long
people.
run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. You sort of you don't get a ton of superstars out of the show's not like bona fide for several years. You don't.
Yeah.
Your Carrie Underwoods and your Kelly Clarksons.
No, not anymore.
Well, and truthfully, there's so many shows like that now.
Yeah.
People can do. I guess maybe you water down the talent pool, or
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but
Also, just because it sounds harsh, but it is true. Just because you can sing doesn't mean you're an artist, and just because you're an artist doesn't mean you can sing. And so, if it's all about your voice, like, I mean, Bob Dylan is the greatest songwriter of all time and one of my biggest influences. I'm not going to tell you he can sing. Now, I love his voice. I think if the idea of what constitutes a great singer, a pretty voice or an ability to tell a story,
it's a
then
storytelling.
I think maybe he's the greatest singer maybe that's ever lived. But not a pretty voice. So when you get down to judging whose voice is prettiest, then that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be left with who's the best
got the
writer
best
or the
content.
best performer or the best artist. And so, and that's no shade to anybody that has ever been on those shows. I just think that that's what you run into is like there's not longevity in a voice.
Yeah.
Your voice wears out after a while, but there's longevity in your artistry. So
that's right. If there's the stronger the artist, the stronger their career.
yeah.
Probably a lot of people are like, "Hey, I got a good voice," and then they try to roll with it.
Yeah.
But they may not have the fundamental background required to make it be long term.
Yeah, well, this is going to sound insensitive, but it is true. I say it all the time. The best thing to happen to Janis Joplin was that she died when she was 27 years old. Her voice was on its way out. It was shot. She could barely sing. So she was left with these 3 albums of really great vocal work, and she never had time to burn out or, blow her voice out or not have that kind of thing. And I think that's what happens to all singers is if all you have is your voice, because, Janis Joplin didn't write me and Bobby McGee. She did.
Right.
Like I'm not sure if she wrote "Piece of My Heart" or anything like that. But like if all you've got is your voice, it leaves, it changes. And so, and I love those songs, by the way. No shade to Janis Joplin, but all those people that the 27 Club, Kurt Cobain and Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, they're all solidified by they weren't alive long enough to make bad records.
Right.
And so they kind of avoided the whole, Eric Clapton makes really bad music now. He's like old and tries to write new music, and it's not very good. And they avoided that curse of what happened to these people that were popular in 1967, and now they have put out an album in 1984, and it sounds like a commercial. You know what I mean? Like that, she avoided that.
Yeah, that is something weird. That 27 Club, how that's popped around for decades.
Oh yeah.
All right, so you get wrapped up with The Voice. How did The Voice influence your career choices after that? After being on that show, what was your decision making like after that?
Well, I didn't go to college. I was going to go to college, so I skipped school, skip town.
Still time.
There's still time. And I see the benefits of it now more than not even at a career, but just of like socially. And I'm a big reader, so I'm a big learner, and so I'm supposed to hate school as a musician, but that's just not in my blood. But
all the great musicians are like, screw school. I'm not
exactly.
going to school.
And so, my cousin Link Neal is Rhett and Link. They have a popular YouTube channel, has been around for a long time and very successful. And so Link said, "Why don't you move into my house for a year in LA?" And so I moved to LA instead of going to college. That's the biggest way that it has affected my life, is it introduced me to a second home in Los Angeles and a second family that has really like enhanced my personhood and my career and my songwriting in the most beautiful of ways.
Got such a big scene you could get in there.
Yeah, and it
Lots
birthed my love for the Lakers, and that is
Yes.
that runs deep.
Yeah, Laker fan here myself.
You are a Laker fan?
Well, I'm West Coast born, man.
Yeah.
So, I've got all that. I was born in LA County. So,
right on, dude. Like, I'm a massive, massive, massive Lakers fan. Maggie hates it because the games come on so late here. But I didn't miss a game last year. I watched 100-something games and from start to finish. I'm a massive Lakers fan. And so that, maybe that has affected my career. I sing the national anthem a lot more than I used to because that's how it affected my career.
Yeah, didn't you sing it for what you did? I saw you post something online.
I sang it for the Lakers.
Yeah.
I've sung it for a couple franchises, but I really want to do the Lakers. I'm trying to angle to do it again this year. It's a little too early to send in an ask. I got it hooked up last year. I have a friend that worked with AEG at the time that he didn't hook it up, but he was like, "This person is looking for who to contact."
Right.
Like
push your name through the right door.
Yeah, like where's what's an email I can send for him to contact the right person? Kind of thing. And so I have the contact now, so I'm going to try to do it. I sang it at the Lakers Pelicans game. It was very early on in the season, and LeBron had a virus, and so it's just a shame when the greatest player of all time is like, "Oh, I'm not feeling great tonight. Let me just drop 20." Do you know what I mean? You're like, that's hard to do. That's hard to do. But they played the Pelicans and before Zion was hurt, and it was one of the best games I've ever. We went into overtime. They gave us 4 fifth-row seats behind the basket. We weren't even like high enough up to be in the stands. We were on the floor. It was like the coolest thing.
Yeah, I bet so, man. You've been watching. Did you watch Winning Time?
Winning Time is one of the greatest television series.
I've been loving watching that one.
And it's over now.
Yeah,
it got canceled.
Well, the ending was like, oh my God, this is done. Like, the ending isn't over.
I don't think they intended when they were filming it that it was going to get canceled, because why do you leave your series off when the Lakers lose to Boston? Like, like the '84 championship, like we lost,
Right. But
I'm like, why didn't you not like go through all of that, get to 87. We beat the Celtics in 87. I'm a massive Lakers history buff, and so I love Winning Time. But Adrian Brody's Pat Riley and Jason Segel,
so good, wasn't
it? John C. Riley, and then Norm Nixon, our point guard. That's his son that plays Norm Nixon.
You're kidding.
That's his son.
Oh my God,
it's crazy, and he's great, and he looks like Norm Nixon, and he's got that swagger, and like. That's his son. That's crazy. The guy that plays Magic is great.
Yeah.
I wish. I'm a big Kareem fan. Like, I have a Kareem jersey. I've got a bunch of stuff signed by Kareem and all that stuff. I like the guy that played him, but like I thought they hammed up the Kareem is a jerk and he's too serious thing.
Yeah, they did lean on that a lot.
They leaned on it a lot. And Kareem talks about, this is so funny. Sorry for everybody who's listening, but Kareem talks about a lot how. That Magic made him learn to love to play the game and smile and everything, and you would never know by watching the show.
No, you wouldn't. But he's very stoic,
but I think you got to take your artistic liberties.
Yeah.
It made great TV.
Yeah, it did. I was sad to see that it was over because the ending was like, oh, we're done. They just wrapped up the whole rest of the Lakers' history at the end of the show, and I was like, what? We're really not getting any more.
Well, Jeff Pearlman, who wrote the book. Showtime also wrote a book called 3 Ring Circus, which is about the Kobe and Shaq 3P, And I thought like maybe
get one of those.
They wrap up the 80s because obviously with Kobe's death, like Kobe's kind of been immortalized, and I was like, we might get
like
a Kobe Shaq series, and like now knowing that that's like not. I mean, I'm not going to count it out. Maybe they'll do another series called Three Ring Circus or something.
Can you imagine having that series on and then having like Shaq do commentary on whoever's playing him?
Yeah.
That'd be so funny.
All the Lakers hated winning time. Jeannie Buss said, I watch it because I miss my dad, and it reminds me of my dad. But all the players were like, the way they portray us.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know,
yeah.
You know, I met Michael Cooper.
You did?
Yeah.
Sweet.
And like, he was one of the, he got pushed out of the starting five once they got like James Worthy and Byron Scott and those guys. But like pretty much, probably besides Magic and Kareem, the most influential like.
Yeah, I remember watching him as a kid. Cooper being part of that role. Byron Scott and Worthy.
Michael Cooper. His son makes merch, and his son was making merch for me for a little bit, and we were in L.A. and I was like, I'd love to meet your dad if he's around. I met him the day before I sang the anthem for the Lakers, and they were like, yeah, meet us at this high school he coaches at before he goes in. Nicest dude. And I was like, man, this guy's got 5 rings.
He's coaching at the high school.
He's coaching at the high school, Culver City High School. It's crazy.
Wow. Man, that's crazy. All those different opportunities you got to do just by staying in L.A.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's, you know, there's like a force field of just, you know, incredible opportunities.
Well, that's wonder. Once that door gets open, all the floodgates of other doors that are possible.
Yeah. You just got to say yes to everything, you know,
right?
Is what I've learned.
And be present. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So, sorry for all that Laker talk, people, but he just
I'm
said
not
Lakers,
sorry.
and I was
I'm not
like,
sorry.
Wow.
I share it with everybody.
So
Jordan or LeBron,
right? So you get yeah. Well, man, don't get me started. I almost took your bait. So you get out of The Voice, and you're on your own. What's the first song you put out on your own?
Was that Cross My Mind? I think it's called Cross My Mind. Yeah, and you know that one has had a little life of its own. I think it almost has like it has over 1.5 million.
Yep,
streams
I saw on
Spotify.
Spotify. It's got a ton of streams on it. 1.5 million.
Yeah, that's pretty legit. I don't think I even like register that when I say it. That like because in the grand scheme of things, that's not a ton. But like when you think you have like people have listened to your song 1 million times, you know, you go like, whoa! I wish I had $1 for every time somebody's listened to my song. I don't. I have like 0.0001 cent.
Right?
Yeah, streaming pays nothing. But
I was about to say, I was jamming to your music this morning, getting hyped up, and I was like, yeah, I listened to a lot of his music. He probably got like I don't know, 0.04 of a penny for every time I listen to that. I don't know what it is, but I've heard it's horrible.
Oh yeah, I see. And then this is a good. I'm not ashamed to talk about it because it's a great little musician thing. I'm an independent artist, so I own my masters. You know, I own my recordings, which is where the real money is in streaming.
Yes.
Own your masters. I split them 50-50 with my producer, Derek Furman, who co-wrote everything with me and produced it all for free. And that was the deal, is we split the master. So, you know, if I have a particularly good month, you know, I've made a couple grand off of Cross My Mind.
Right.
That's only because I own my masters. If I didn't own my masters and a record label owned my masters, I would have made like $100 off of that song, you know?
Right.
But I've gotten lucky owning half of my masters, which an independent artist, hip hop artist, Russ, makes. He has a ton of streams. I mean, he has like, I think it takes to make, I think 1 million streams is like $3,000.
Yeah.
I think. And so, whereas if you sold 1 million copies of your single back during the day, you would never have to work ever again.
No,
you know?
you would not.
And so 1 million streams is like $3,000 total. And if you own 100% of your masters and 100% of your songwriting royalties is what you're going to get. And so, again, I only own 50% of them. So and then 50% of the songwriting royalty. So I don't see that $3,000, but you think it's crazy. You know, it's crazy. 1.5 million streams. And
right,
people are listening to this song daily, and I don't even make, you know.
No, I was like, all right,
$1,500.
That's like the house bills for a month.
Yeah, genuinely. Yeah, it's you see those, like, which the WGA strike is over now, but SAG-AFTRA still is on strike, and you know, thank God unions are really the backbone of this country. You see those royalty checks that these actors get from reruns that are like a penny, and you're like, it's not fair. It's not fair. This streaming world is really, nobody knows how to navigate it because it's so new,
Right, and especially since the folks that are at the top of that streaming avenue, the owners, they're getting, gobs of money.
Yeah, the record labels don't care to change it because the record labels are the ones that own the masters, and so they're not hurting. I mean, it's definitely affected their business in a big way, but like the songwriting is $3,000, but it, for 1 million streams, it's not split down the middle. Like the master side of it is significantly more than the writer's side of it anyways. And so, like, I don't know the exact split, but let's say if it's $3,000 for 1 million streams, maybe 2,200 of it is all for recording, and the rest gets divvied out to the writer.
All kinds of people that put their hands into that, and they all have a paycheck too.
And your manager gets 20%. If your lawyer is the one that negotiated your contract, then they get 5%. It's a weird world to navigate, because you used to could be a musician and not even have a hit and make really good money, and now you could have hits and still. I mean, I see so many successful musicians that still live in like apartments with roommates that have like, that tour the country, and play for 400 or 500 people every night, and they still have like a 2-bedroom in LA with a roommate. Like,
they're recording, as that's their job. They have to do it. To tour. It would. Hopefully, at some point down the road, that gets a little more artist friendly. Yeah.
Well, it's really up to Congress, I think, and like there's been several, musicians that have lobbied for Congress to pass some laws that regulates streaming companies, and they kind of have. I think that there was one that passed a couple of years ago that Adam Levine really spearheaded, but it's just not enough. You got to figure out how to regulate these companies where artists are actually getting paid their fair share.
Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast about how our country
we've really
likes
covered
to screw
a lot
over.
Of,
I know we're
getting
a lot of ground. That's a whole other podcast about how our country screws over the people that actually produce the stuff that everybody needs to live and breathe every day.
Yes.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it is. We'll do a panel.
Yes, for sure. So listening to your singles, I listen to them. Well, I've always listened to them. I always try to support local folks.
Yeah.
Especially, when you're getting, a 100th of a penny per stream. It's like, if one of your songs plays on my Spotify list, the rule is don't change it.
Yeah.
Let it play. Britton's going to get a quarter of the penny. Yeah. Let it play. Yeah. Let it play.
You're feeding my family.
Let that song play. So listening this morning, I got to tell you, I'm a big fan of your song Better.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun song.
I use that in my classroom for like beginning drumming lessons.
No way.
Do. Yeah, because your drum beat comes in. It's super simple. Yeah. And the kids can go, drum. And I use tambourines for cymbals. They all sit on the floor like a mini drum set.
That is so
practice.
Cool.
And so they can go drum, tambourine, drum, tambourine. And then the drum beat pulls out, and then I can shout directions, or I can shout behavioral corrections if they're not listening to me. Then it comes back in, and then we can go back in.
Oh, man, that's so rad. Thank you for telling me that.
That one is like one of my go-to for like, all right, first time we're going to do some mini drumming plans. Because that's great.
It's fun. I mean, obviously, like, I listen to a lot of Prince, and I always have, clearly, with that song. But we were looking for...
Yeah, it is Princey now that I think about it.
We were looking for a post-chorus riff, and it used to be very synthy. We were having a bunch of different keyboard parts in it. And we were looking for like a synth horn, very particular sound. And I played this riff, and we were like really just jamming with this riff for days. Yeah. And it would be like, it's got to get better. Da-da-dum, boom, 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 ba-da-dum, boom. Yeah. And then we were like, that's such a cool riff. That feels really familiar. That's such a cool riff. And then like 3 days into it, we would hear it, and the producer, the riff played, you know, da 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 da, and he stopped and he looks at me and he goes, "Woo!" And he's like, "That's Celebration."
Yeah,
and it was literally the horn riff.
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, and I was like, we just stole.
Yeah,
Celebration. So we took it out. I can't remember what's in there now, but because I play them by myself so much, I don't go back and listen to them. But yeah, we almost got into trouble for lifting. Is that Cool in the Gang? Is Celebration Cool in the Gang? Yeah, we almost got in trouble.
Sure is.
From
yeah,
Cool
that's
in the
one
Gang.
of my. That's when someone asks me, "What's your favorite kind of music?" I go, "Funk."
Yeah,
I was like, "That's it." I was like, "Funk." And I said, when I have told my wife a million times, if you're having any kind of funeral for me or memorial, whatever, I was like, just straight funk for the whole service. That's all I want.
That is so funny.
That's all I want.
We'll get George Clinton to come and play Parliament, Funkadelic.
Yep, that's all I want, man. Just funk. My Spotify. I don't know if you listen to Spotify much, but they've got this AI DJ thing.
I've heard of it. I haven't used it yet.
It's so fun to listen, and so he'll go, all right, here's 5 tracks of music you pull a lot, and it'll just be 5 funk musics all the time.
Like Wolfpack? Do you know them? Isn't it Wolfpack?
I'd have to look them back up again.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to send them to you.
You have to send them to me. Yeah,
I think it's VULFPECK. They're great.
Yeah. Now I can't say I'm.
Now if I butcher
deep
that
dive
name,
into like
I'm
current
tell
funk,
you to cut it.
But any current funk, but a lot of old funk.
You'll love these guys.
All right, yeah, you have to send that one to me. Oh, no, my phone just went out. I'm looking at our script. All right, let's keep moving on, Britton. So yeah, Better I like a whole bunch, and which is really poppy. But what I noticed your at least of those first singles that you listened out, they're all kind of poppy, but they're very storyteller heavy, which is what I really like about it. Is a good mix of the pop sound, but your story that goes with it very much, which I think is, you don't get a lot of the songs. It's not heavy story.
Yeah, that's very important to me, and like I think the next record that I would make is probably going to be less poppy and way more story. But there is like Cross My Mind is like. I mean, that's a pop song, but having, if nothing lasts forever, why do you? Is like a really insightful, that's a big question to ask in a pop song,
Right.
God, I can't even. It's hard for me to remember my own words. I can tell you the
you
third
just ask
line
my
of
wife
the
about
second
me
verse.
having to remember stuff. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, what is that? Our endless teenage fights setting fire to the night to watch the embers. They try to tell stories. Cross my mind. That's kind of about like just being stuck, whether it's a person or a place or whatever. It's just kind of like, why can't I shake this? And Better. That's fun. I wrote that with a few people and. Not much of a story there, but that's a cool tune.
No, I know that one seemed to be the poppiest kind of tune that you had.
Yeah, it definitely. I think that was one of those where it's like, let's do something that like is super Prince. That's got a nice little guitar solo in it, and like, and it's funny because it doesn't sound like it, but Man in the Mirror was like a huge influence, which is I'm obviously not Prince, but his rival.
Yeah.
The Clippers to Prince's Lakers.
Right.
Is Michael Jackson.
When has he just called Michael Jackson the Clippers?
Yeah. No offense to the Jackson State, but just that I got into really just listening to the vocal track of that song.
Yeah.
It's maybe the greatest vocal
it's
ever
a great
recorded.
Tune. Yeah, it's a great tune.
And like, if you just go on YouTube and look up Man in the Mirror isolated vocal, it is amazing. And so we just like, that whole like, you can hear it in the background that of just like a choir, which is just me.
Yes.
That was very intentional because Man in the Mirror, and there's sections where like you're hitting like the woo woo on the drum beat, which is very Michael. And so we just lifted from Michael and Prince, and we were like, we need to get another good guitar solo song.
Yeah. So something I've always wanted to do is like, I want to make a choir of myself.
Yeah.
You hear people, the choir comes in and it's really just the singer, layered on some tracks. It's like, man, I want to try that out. Watching Ray Charles, the movie Ray.
Yeah, with Jamie
watching
Foxx,
him, and he just learns about doing tracks, and he can't get a choir to come in or they're late or something. He's like, oh, let me just do it myself. And he puts them all down. Ever since I saw that movie, I was like, man, I want to try that out.
What a great film, too.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx is amazing in it. Jamie Foxx is just
a
brilliant musician in his own right.
Yeah. Oh, my. People don't realize he's a stellar musician.
Yeah. Great pianist, great vocalist.
Really, really good. Classically trained.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know. Yeah.
And worked, really, really, for a long time alongside Ray Charles for that movie.
Yeah, they did a whole bunch. Yeah.
Watching his hands and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's a few people that are very hardcore classically trained musicians that are in the pop world. And a lot of people don't really know, like Lady Gaga is very classically trained.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah.
The jazz stuff that she does, the big band stuff is beautiful.
So you put out an album in 2021, Something You Can Break. How did that all come together?
I thought that was a very clever name myself. I was like, you can break it. Here's something you can break. If you don't like it, just break it. Which is a line from, one of the songs. I just want to give you something you can break is what it says. I'd worked on it for like 2 years. I worked on it for a really long time with Derek Furman, I mentioned before, producer and co-writer, and we had a bunch of stuff that got cut that didn't make the record, and played with production for a really long time. And during COVID, we really like hunkered down, and I'm a very serious. I don't like to get sick regardless, especially when it's like a worldwide pandemic, and so. My like group was like my two best friends and Derek, and so and we all didn't see each other but anybody but each other, and so like my COVID experience was extrememely productive. So at first, until
were you here in COVID or still?
I was still in LA. I lived in LA from basically the end of 2017 till the beginning of 22.
Gotcha.
We worked remotely for a little bit, just tested.
Yeah, you can do a whole album remotely.
Yeah, my roommate Stephen Brewer, whose parents own the Flame, and the Dairy Bar and the new great pizza place in town. I haven't
been yet.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
He helped me record a lot of it in his room. We were living together at the time. He now has a great band, Alliance at the Gate. Shout out to Stephen, also from Sanford. It's metal music. It's definitely not Britton Buchanan music, but he helped.
Smell
record.
A mashup.
Yeah. He recorded some vocals, with me, and just to test the waters, kind of see what this virus was going to do. Kind of like, I don't think we waited until the vaccines really hit to start working in person again, but like that definitely helped. That opened up because in LA we were able to all get vaccinated pretty early,
right,
and. Because so many doses were going to LA and people weren't getting them, and they would just throw them away. So you could just go, and get it pretty early before that your age group was really opened up. Because
I've noticed, listen to other stuff. People in A are like, I got my vaccine today, and I'm like, how did they get a vaccine? It's not even available.
Yeah, I it's such a weird place to be in right now, where they're like, you need to get a booster, but wait for a second because we're still tweaking it. And so I'm like, well, you better hurry up because I don't want to get sick waiting on you. But we that's kind of when we really started really going full steam ahead, was when we were able to get protected,
Right.
And
feel safer about being together.
And feel safer about being together. But it was a very productive COVID because which, I hate talking about it like that because I feel selfish because a lot of people lost their lives or family members or whatever. But like for the first like 2 weeks, it was like the greatest readjustment of my life. You know, I was running so hard, and it was just like a, you know, not only was it a don't take anything for granted because it can all be gone in an instant.
Yeah.
But it was also just a
cut out a lot of the noise.
Yeah, it was a slow down, see what you like you have to appreciate what you have. I'm such a movie nerd. I watched so many movies, and it was kind of like I watched so many movies to the point of I was like, you know what's so special about film is it's escapism, because when you have nothing to do but sit in film, you take it for granted, and it becomes incredibly tedious to just sit there and watch another movie. And I think what makes film so special is when you have so much and you're allowed to slow down and slip into another world. Because after 2 weeks, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch anything else. You know, I just want to go out and do something. I mean, I was in LA. I'm like, I'm in LA locked in an apartment, you know? And so work, you know, was revitalized in that way. I started writing a lot, again, watched a lot, read a lot, and all that stuff. And so it was in a way the greatest thing that's ever happened to me, and also the worst thing that's ever happened to me, because it stalled my career in an unbelievable fashion.
You were right off The Voice and started working on your own stuff, and then everything stops.
Yeah, I toured the country with my cousin. We were playing like 3,000. I was opening for him, but we were like playing 3,000 seat auditoriums, and I was like in talks with managers and doing all that kind of stuff, and was going to put out music even before COVID, but like, and it just
everything
stalled everything. So it was, as a personal thing, you know, I was lucky to not lose anybody in my family, and I avoided COVID until July of last year, thank God. And then when I did get it, I had my vaccines and my boosters, and I was in rough shape as a 22-year-old, you know.
Yeah, and I had it last year too.
It was awful for me. I couldn't stand up for longer than 5 minutes at a time without legitimately my knees buckling and almost falling over. I was so weak, and I'm, you know, healthy, you know, I don't have any pre-existing conditions or anything like that, and which is that's all beside the point. Basically, said it was a really beautiful thing. I did that podcast I was telling you about. Professionally, it was like a nightmare, and ultimately, professional, that doesn't matter, you know, in the grand scheme of things. What matters is your health.
That's right.
Safety. But we did that during COVID. We recorded that, and it was beautiful. I'm very proud of it, you know.
It's a great album. You got a lot of your singles on there.
Yep.
Mixed in with some new stuff. The tune Grace Kelly and Can't Help Myself are different because it's got the acoustic lead on there.
Yep.
What made you go back to your roots for those tunes?
Well, Grace Kelly is, I personally think, is the greatest song that I have ever written. It is me 100%. You know, my love of film, my love of music, that's a great storytelling song. That's probably the best story on the album. I have a lot of other songs I've written that I like just as much now, but they're all like 5 or 6 minutes long, and so like the fact that I was able to like whittle that down to like a really good 3-minute story. Can't Help Myself was just written that way, which is also a great song. If you listen to it closely, we intended it to be a very Every Breath You Take undercover like stalker song. And then we had to change some of the lyrics of the chorus because we were like, maybe it's too much on the nose. Like what I think it's you know, I can't be the hand your hand is held, and I can't find the fix or break the spell, but I can't see you with someone else. It was originally, I can't be, maybe it's be the hand your hand is held, and then I can't tell you how your perfume smells, because it was like a, you know, you were watching this person from a distance, and we did it on purpose as like a subversive message in the song, and we were like, that's too obvious. But it's either too obvious or it's like, why is he talking about her perfume like that? And so we changed it for the better. That's like also one of my favorite songs on that record. great. That's a great song. But Grace, that was just written like that. Grace Kelly was also written like that, but we tried really hard to turn it into something. Not, like a pop song, but I had seen The Sound of Metal, which was a great movie that was nominated for an Oscar. It came out during COVID, as an Amazon Prime original, and I saw it.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's about a guy that is losing his hearing. He's a drummer.
Yep.
And there was a song at the end of that movie that was just like solo piano, and the guy had like a vocoder on or something. Very like Bon Iver, like harmonies, that like computerized harmonies. And I had played Grace Kelly the way that it was played on the record, but I was like, maybe we should try it like with the piano and maybe like a vocal filter where you have this like computerized like vocoder thing. And that did not work.
No.
And so we just were like, let's just do it with the acoustic guitar. Then we kind of added the piano and the drums in it a little bit. But
Right.
If I could go back, I'd probably do that song with just me and my guitar.
Right.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I figured that one was a little more personal to you because you went back to your beginnings. With
It took me
acoustic
4
lead.
months to write, actually.
Yeah.
I wrote the first verse in 30 minutes and couldn't figure out where it went after that for the longest time. And 4 months later, I was laying on the floor of my shower in my apartment because I think a lot in the shower. I was just like laying down, sitting there thinking about it, and without even picking up a guitar, line for line, the whole song came out 4 months later, the second verse to bridge and the third verse immediately.
Yeah.
And I kicked it around for 4 months and couldn't figure it out. And so I don't know if it's one of those where I just feel like I accomplished something or if it's
Right.
actually that good, but that one's my favorite.
Now on the tune Olivia and Last Time, you starts out on piano. Is that you playing?
That is me, yeah.
I wondered if that was you started out on that or not.
Yeah. Last Time for Everything, I don't know if that's me or if it's just that's a producer, but all the piano on Olivia is me.
Yeah.
Last Time for Everything, I think one of the producers that co-produced, Ian Walsh, I think was messing around on the piano and had that really filtered, choppy. I was like, I want to write a Bruce Hornsby song, is what I said. Yeah. And so he was like, I worked on this track. What do you think? And he came in with that riff, and we wrote based on that, which is rare because that never happens. We usually just have two guitars and, kind of
go back and forth.
Like melody and then write some lyrics. I'm more of a lyrics guy than I am anything else.
Yeah.
And so when he came in with that, I was like, that kind of feels like Bruce Hornsby. Let's write this song. So that one's not me. That's Ian Walsh. But Olivia is me. All the rest of the piano on the whole record is me. But just not that song.
Yeah. So do you ever envision yourself doing a tune like Prince, where he plays guitar, he plays bass, he plays drums, he plays whatever? It's all him on the recording.
Most of the music on the recordings are me. Besides all the drums, the only drums that are live are on Grace Kelly. The rest are programmed drums that we did in the computer. And so outside of the drums, pretty much every instrumentation on the record is me. You can nitpick it. Every guitar solo, every piano. The song "Be Brave" on my record, which is very politically inspired.
Oh, I was gonna. Yeah, it reminded me. I didn't type it in here. I was gonna bring that up too.
I wrote that one with Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20. So
I saw you posted. You went to the Matchbox 20.
Yeah, he had us out,
and that he had brought you out. I told my wife is like secretly in love with Rob Thomas for
he's
the
nicest
time.
Dude.
And I was like, look what Britton Buchanan got to do.
Yeah, he's the nicest dude. He had us backstage. Before the show, which is rare because usually musicians want you to come after and they can say hey and jet out. He had us backstage and sat down with us. I hadn't met him in person. We had just written on Zoom for over an hour. Wow. That's so rare. You usually get like 10 minutes with somebody backstage. We had us backstage before the show for over an hour. But we wrote that song about, what was going on during the pandemic with George Floyd and, I had marched with Jane Fonda and her group for climate justice about a month before the pandemic, and then George Floyd happened in June, and so I was in a very put your fist in the air and march kind of mood, and I was like, I really want to write. I needed him to kick it off because I was like, I really want to write something that says something, but I can't figure out how to do it without it sounding corny. Like Jackson Browne is really good at it. Woody Guthrie, even going back to those old they're really good at it. And they're really good at it because they're specifically very general, but very specific. It's so interesting. And I couldn't figure out how to do it. And Rob was like, what about this? I think about life, it's a one-way road. And sang the whole first verse verbatim. And I was like, what about this for a second verse? And what I think about life in the shape of a fit. And like, verbatim. And so it was kind of split up that like Rob wrote the first half, I wrote the second half. But that song, besides the drums, I played everything, and the bass, the guitar solo, the piano, the Rhodes electric piano, everything on that one is me. So I thought you were going to ask what I would love to do. I'd love to do a show at the Temple to where like I know that I'm a great guitar player. I've been doing that longer than I've been doing anything. And I'm not as good at the piano, but I love accompanying myself on the piano. I would love to do a show at the Temple with just a keyboard. Yeah. With no option for me to even switch to the guitar, so I'm not tempted, and just take a keyboard and just sit there and do all of my songs on a
Billy Joel style.
Yeah. Prince did that too. Prince did his last couple of shows were just him and his piano. And he passed, unfortunately, but he was going to go on a tour that was like, I can't remember what it was called, but it basically just, Prince and a piano.
Wow. And just like Prince, you have a whole album you've never put out.
Yes. Yeah. He has many albums.
He's got a whole bunch. I don't know if you've ever listened to any Kevin Smith, movie director.
Yeah.
But anyway, he did a documentary. Prince documentary. Prince had
about the most beautiful. Have you heard the story about? Is that what you're talking about? The most beautiful girl in the world. He wanted to put that in one of his movies, and Prince.
Well, he did a whole album release. And Kevin Smith shot the documentary. He did a whole concert at his place there, and what is it, Minnesota?
Yeah,
did a whole concert there, and Kevin shot listening groups and stuff that listened to the album, and did a whole thing. He was there for 3 or 4 days, and they shot a whole thing. Kevin edited the whole thing and put it together, and Prince he just put a whole album, the documentary. It's all just in a vault.
Yeah, and
never
I think
even put it
post
out.
That one of Kevin's like a movie, not a documentary. He wanted to put the most beautiful girl in the world in it, and Prince got really weird, and they had a big falling out over whether or not he could use the most beautiful girl in the world.
Yeah,
great song.
Yeah. I thought that was weird. Look at that, Britain's just like Prince.
Yeah, I'm just
album
like
in the
Prince.
vault.
Yeah, no documentary though. Unfortunately, that'd be fun.
All right, so what's next for Britton Buchanan?
I'm gonna watch the USC Colorado football game.
Yes, everybody's watching that, aren't they? Well, I'm personally gonna be a watch, and you're not gonna like this whatsoever because I'm looking at your shirt. But I'm a big Duke fan. I'm one for college game day at Duke today.
I grew up in a family of Duke fans. And at that point, I didn't care. But I married a Tar Heel graduate and quickly became a very rabid Carolina fan. Although I peacefully coexist with my fellow Duke brethren, I cannot get along with a Clipper fan if you ask me to. And so that's where I draw the line. But yeah, I like UNC. My two colleges are UNC and USC. Even though I love Deion Sanders and I've rooted for him every game. I don't like football at all. I only got into football because of Deion Sanders. And I've rooted for him every game except this one. I hope USC pummels them into the dirt. I'm a very big living in LA and my friends I have several friends that are on staff at USC.
Well, if Oregon is any inclination of what's going to happen, USC will probably do a lot of pummeling because Colorado doesn't have,
and USC is even better than Oregon, and Colorado. They don't have the size.
No,
or Travis Hunter.
He's still out, right?
He's still out, so they have no chance. But
There's
fight on, Trojans. Fight on.
Britton just said at the beginning of the podcast about how sports wasn't his thing and blah blah blah.
I know.
And here we are going on about the Lakers and football.
I started playing basketball about a year ago, and so I play basketball. There's just some groups I play basketball with. I never played organized basketball, but there's some groups I play basketball with, once or twice a week. And so I'm a big basketball fan at this point in my life. Rabid. Football, that only started. I'm singing
Right.
the anthem actually at the UNC Miami football game on the 14th. So that'll be fun.
Spectacular.
That'll be fun.
I wonder if they'll show that on TV.
I don't know.
They don't show that stuff.
They don't
very
show the
often.
anthem anymore. I'm not going to blame that on Colin Kaepernick. I think it's just boring TV.
That's true.
But yeah, I did it for a UNC game last year on my birthday. Actually, UNC Notre Dame basketball game. This should be more competitive.
Now, are those like favors, or do you get paid for that?
They're favors.
Yeah.
Well, you get like they gave me this shirt.
You get swag.
I was gonna wear my USC shirt, but I would put on blue sweatpants, and I was like,
yeah,
I don't want him to think I don't know how to color coordinate red and yellow and blue sweatpants.
Man, it doesn't affect me whatsoever, man. All right, so we've.
I know. Is this a record for how long you have gone?
We'll be close.
All
We'll
right.
see how much more we talk. So I've got some fun, like just
All right.
some questions, like people would like, just want to know. So if you didn't learn guitar, what instrument do you think you would have gone to?
I'd love to know how to play a saxophone, but I have no patience.
Super easy. No, super easy.
Really?
Saxophone's easy. Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to learn. I mean, Bruce Springsteen is like, there's like,
Yeah,
he's
the
at
tenor
the
solos in
yeah,
there.
and I wouldn't play music if it wasn't for him. He's a single-handedly most influential person in my life.
Dave Matthews Band, another one.
Yeah, and so like with Springsteen, like that's it. Like him and Clarence Clemens, that saxophone. I'd love to learn how to do that.
Sax is super. It's the easiest woodwind instrument to play.
Really?
Oh yeah, super easy.
All right.
Go rent yourself one, like $30 a month. Learn a saxophone. I'll even teach you if you want.
I'll take you up on it because I've always wanted to know.
Super easy. Or Lauren Winkins, you better listen to this. You would be a much better teacher than I would be in town. I don't know if you know Lauren, but she's a just elite level clarinet player, super woodwind player.
I had to get on that because I've always wanted to learn.
Yeah. Oh no, easiest of all woodwind instruments to play. Saxophone, you should totally go for it. What is your favorite song to cover? Like if you when you sing, what's
that's
one?
so hard because it changes all the time.
Right.
My favorite song in the world is Jungle Land by Bruce Springsteen, but that's a 9.5-minute epic that relies heavily on piano and saxophone, and so I don't do that. But I love to sing A Case of You by Joni Mitchell. I slow that down and really just like milk it. And Don't Think Twice Is All Right by Bob Dylan, which I also slow down and really just like do a little emotional version. So those two are probably my favorite songs to cover.
What do you try to stay away from covering? Is there anything you're like, no, I'm not going to do that? Or if you're
which there's a particular artist that has gotten in trouble for their use of verbiage of certain slurs, and I play in Nashville a lot, and they're consistently covered. And I believe in second chances for everybody. I am a big restorative justice person and read a lot of books about that. But I told Maggie the other day, I was like, sometimes when people request it and I like think about doing it, I feel like I said that word, And so, I wish him the best with his career.
You can tell me later.
But I try to stay away from that. And no like R. Kelly or anything. Like,
right?
No,
nobody does R. Kelly anymore.
Nobody does R. Kelly. Not that I was covering R. Kelly to begin with, but no R. Kelly.
You should start covering hip hop, man. That was great. It's
I do
good.
Waterfalls a lot,
yeah.
And I do like I used to like cover like Big Papa and like How Do You Want It? Like Tupac's How Do You Want It?
I'm a big fan of playing music in like the opposite genre.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot.
I'm a big fan of that. I've got a lot of like pop tunes or rap tunes, but they're covered by like bluegrass groups.
Yeah, well, I've heard that Gin and Juice, like the famous like bluegrass cover.
Yeah, I got a lot of that on my playlist. I love just when something is where it's not supposed to be.
I'm a massive hip hop fan, and so like I'm pretty well versed. But I don't know. I don't really think about it a lot in terms of like trying to get there. Besides Waterfalls, which is always the best because like everybody, you can see the anticipation on people's faces when I
Right.
cover it in like Nashville of like, is he going full Lisa Left Eye
Yeah,
Lopez?
yeah.
Is he gonna do?
Is he gonna do the rap?
I seen the rainbow, yes, and I always do, and then everyone's like, oh, because I guess they think
are they
it's
going to do
funny.
the rap?
Which now I forgot about. We're the Millers. That movie. Have you seen Where the Millers?
Yeah.
And the kid, they play the Waterfalls comes
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
radio, and Kenny, the guy, is does the rap, and it's such a funny moment of the movie. And now I watched it again recently, and I can't help but think that I kind of look like that dude whenever I do it.
Right.
And I'm like, is that why people are clapping, or is it,
Yeah.
or is like because they think I'm like the lame kid in We're the Millers movie?
What is your favorite musician right now?
Oh, it's always Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
But like in terms of like that's like all time.
Did you hear that, Alex Podlegar? It's Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, it's always Bruce Springsteen. And now Noah Gunderson.
Yes, I know. I listen to him.
So I saw him in Nashville on Tuesday. I just discovered him like a couple of months ago. And his new record is one of the most perfect things. It came out 20-something days ago, and there hasn't been a day that's gone by where I haven't listened to it from
I'll
top
have
to
to
bottom.
take a look to it.
It was called If This Is the End. I saw him in Nashville on Tuesday, and I left the show, and before I got in the car, because I was in Nashville all week, I got in at 2 o'clock in the morning on yesterday morning technically, but Wednesday night or Thursday night. But I went before I got in the car. I bought tickets to see him again last night in Durham. That's how good it was.
Yeah.
Was I left the show? I was like, I'm not going to go in Durham because I'm going to be tired. I'm going to get in at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to be tired. I'm not going to feel like going on Friday night.
Yeah.
And it was so good. I bought tickets to see him again in Durham last night before I even got in the car in Nashville. And so I went to see him again last night, and he just really blows me away.
Spectacular. What's your favorite kind of guitar to play?
I love my acoustic. That big old, the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
one on the wall. I have a Bob Dylan Players Edition Gibson Signature Custom Shop acoustic. That's great. And then Alicia gave me a 1969 Telecaster.
Oh my God!
While I was on the show, excuse me, and that's always a fun one to play.
Yeah, lots of. How many guitars do you have?
11, I think.
11. Yeah, I've interviewed a couple people that are not about their guitar playing, but they're players, and they all have.
Yeah.
They've all got a few.
Yeah. I have 3 or 4 acoustic, several electric. Stuff you pick up over the years,
Yeah. What's the best venue you've ever played in?
The Ryman
The Ryman.
in Nashville. Yeah.
Is that there on the Strip? I've only been to Nashville once, so
it's right off of it, but yeah.
I got very limited knowledge, but I've been to the Strip once.
It's off Broadway. It's like it's
Yeah.
on the Broadway stretches.
Yeah.
That way, and you go up one of the streets, and it's not even a block up. And
Gotcha.
so, but it's they call it the Mother Church of country music, and it was built. It's a church. It was built in the 1800s, and it's where the Grand Ole Opry was for its first 30 years, and it's the most legendary venue. The seats are pews, and I saw Bob Weir there. I saw Jackson Brown there, and the week before I played there, I saw Ringo Starr there.
Oh, wow.
And so
He's still touring?
Yeah, he's still touring.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those where I had just seen so many great shows there that by the time I played, I was like, I can't believe
you're there.
Elvis played on that stage.
Yeah.
It was one of those where it's like,
Wow.
that's just the coolest place I've ever
And that
played.
Strip is really cool. I've only been once, and I got to say thank you, Lee County Schools, because music teachers got to go to a music conference there about a decade ago, and it was right there in Nashville at the convention center. And so one of the other teachers, we went that evening, and we went and just walked down the Strip and went to one of the bars there and sat in an upstairs window and just got to watch, and it was really cool.
Yeah, it's a cool city. There's a lot of music there. I played the Bluebird Cafe there too, which is pretty known for being cranking out songwriters.
Yeah.
And so that's also a cool place to play.
And it was fun because the CMAs were there at the same time.
Yeah.
So we were taking pictures and saying, "Hey, thanks, Dr. Brian, the superintendent there,
Yeah.
for sending us to the CMAs here in Nashville," because
Yeah.
it was like the day before everybody was getting there for the CMAs, but
That's
all the
amazing.
stuff was up.
Yeah, it's such a cool city.
So yeah, it was like every little place. There were so many bands playing at the same time.
Yeah, it feels
Every
like a
little
movie
place.
when you walk down the street
Yeah.
because by the time you get past, the exterior of a building, I mean, you hear all the music because the windows
Yeah.
are open,
Mhm.
and so, but by the time you get past that exterior and you're in another business, that it's like that music fades out,
And another one's there.
It's like when a camera's like panning somebody walking
Yeah.
through a crowd, and you just tune in on all these different conversations as they walk by them. It's a trippy experience.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of music coming out of place. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. I would definitely go back again. What's an artist you would like to work with? If you got
I mean, obviously Springsteen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of that I would like to work with, I mean, Noah Gunderson too. I'd like to write
Yeah.
with Noah Gunderson. In terms of a producer writer, like Jack Antonoff, who has the band Bleachers, but who also has produced, Lana Del Rey and the last Chicks album and
Oh, yeah,
Taylor
yeah.
Swift and all this. I know a good one. I'm a huge fan of the Killers, and so I would love to
Yes.
work with Brandon
Yeah,
Flowers.
we like the Killers too.
Yeah.
We sure do like the Killers. All right, Britton. So we're about at the end of this little show. So
All
I've got about 6 questions I ask everybody. I'd just like to see
Okay.
everyone's different. Not really music related.
All right.
So, what is, and you can't say family on
Okay.
this one. What's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen?
Springsteen on Broadway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite smell?
That's a good question. Popcorn.
Popcorn. Nice. Movie theater popcorn. For
Yeah,
me.
movie theater popcorn.
What's your favorite kind of sandwich?
A French dip.
French dip. No one said that yet. I like it. What's your favorite kind of drink?
Okay, this is where it gets complicated because I've tried to stop drinking sodas ever since I started working out with my brother. So I haven't had sodas in a long time.
Yeah.
So all I drink is like water. But a ginger beer,
Yeah.
it's a little like heavier on the ginger than a ginger ale, but it goes down a little softer. Like it's not as like aggressive as a ginger ale.
Yeah.
I like a ginger beer.
Nice. What's something that makes you happy every time it happens?
Well, obviously, like, I love hanging out with my wife. Like, she's my
Right.
best friend. And so, like, anytime that we get to, like, when my wife and I go to a movie, even if it's like a sad movie, I'm just
Yeah.
happy that, like, we just saw Candyman, the
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
from the 90s in a theater in Nashville on Wednesday night. And that was, like, the most content, that I...
Well, going to the
I've
movies
been.
is awesome anyway. I'd go
Yeah.
all the time if I had time to do it. And if you could give your kid self, an advice, you could give yourself as in your youth, one little bit of nugget of advice, what would you tell yourself?
Oh gosh. That this is 100% genuine. And I did it when I was a kid. I still do it now. But, like, I would say that, like, reading everything is as important as you feel like it is right now.
Yeah.
And I've stuck with it. And, like, there were times when, people would be like, you're not doing anything productive. You're just sitting there and reading, or you're doing it. Like, learning is just as important.
Yes, it is.
In terms of being informed is important, especially these days when misinformation is more likely to be believed than real information. And so being informed, but also just as, like, if you're going to grow up and be a songwriter, like, songwriting isn't the only writing that you need to listen to.
That's right.
You gotta be immersed in literature and information. And, like, I mean, so funny. I read mostly nonfiction now, but
Yeah.
you just but that's where stories come from.
Right.
And so don't stop reading, and, just don't stop being a nerd. Like, that's the thing is, like,
Yes.
I don't know
Yes.
why it's so cool. Here comes the person that said they weren't very good at sports.
Right.
I don't know why it's so cool to have to be home for the game, or this person did this last night, or, oh, I'm so passionate about my football team, or whatever that people can do and still maintain like a work life, But for some reason, if you like know everything about the movie and you know the director and who wrote it and
Right.
the the actors, and you just love this new record or this new book is great, that's nerdy. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like art. Bono has that great line that music can change the world because music can change people, and I believe that ultimately just about art in general. So don't ever like take that for granted. Be immersed in art at all times.
Yes, I highly agree.
I mean, that's what makes the world tolerable, is good art.
Good art. Yes, I highly agree, man. Yeah, and I got to say, the nerddom is only called that because I think it's kind of new.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that all of us, stuff that people thought was nerdy back in the day, and all those kids are now adults, and those adults have had kids, and their kids are into all that same stuff too. And so I don't think people are going to refer to it as nerddom for much longer.
I hope not. Just because it isn't Fellini doesn't mean that it's not worth your time. And that's what most people would have you think is like, if you're into Fellini and you're into Kurosawa and Kubrick, and I'm into Kubrick and all those things, then it's cinema. But if you like A Nightmare on Elm Street and Sleepaway Camp, then it's a B movie, just trash. It's not worth like everything can inform everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so if all art you can hold as worth something and sacred, and like I always say that, like, if you want to talk about God and God as a creator, then the best way that you can live in an image of God or be an image bearer of God is to also be creative. And so if creativity comes from, the source, capital S source, then it doesn't matter what you're creating. It's sacred, whether it's not very good or it's great, so there is an inherent worthfulness in all art, and you have to submerge yourself in it, or you won't know what you're doing at all.
Creativity is sacred. There you go. You put that on a shirt.
There you go.
Well, Britton, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you, man.
Check out all his music anywhere you stream music, and take a listen to it a lot. He's got great stuff on there. And remember, folks, find out what makes you happy and do it. There's a lot of life out there to live, so make the time and enjoy it. And download Britton's music now.
Yes.
Thanks, man. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Have a good week, everyone.
Think about life as a one-way road. Starting off strong, then you just get old. You can't be rich if you don't make money. Kinda like a joke, but it just ain't funny. I've been wrong and I've been right, and I've been trying to pretend that it's alright, but it's not all